The story begins the way all reality TV nightmares do, quietly, behind the scenes, where nobody is supposed to notice. But when Mendeecees took to his phone late one night and hinted at explosive receipts that could change the way fans looked at Kirk Frost and Kendra Robinson forever, the entire love and hip-hop world tilted on its axis. Within minutes, whispers turned to roars, and the internet was ablaze with one single question. What was Mendeecees holding onto that had him ready to risk it all? The answer came with a single screenshot, dropped like a bomb into the chaos of social media. And what it revealed left even the most seasoned reality TV watchers clutching their pearls. Because these weren't just random texts, buried deep in the archive of someone's phone. These were messages, personal and unfiltered, that painted a picture of betrayal and deception fans had never imagined. Kirk, the man already infamous for his complicated marriage with Rashida, and Kendra, the strong-willed partner standing by Jock. What possible connection could they share that had Mendeecees pressing send with full confidence that the world deserved to know? Fans flooded timelines with disbelief, debating if the screenshots were real or doctored. But one thing was certain, Mendeecees didn't flinch. His caption beneath the receipts only fueled the flames. "Don't ever play with me. Y'all know what you did." And just like that, every room, every living room, every group chat from Atlanta to LA was consumed by one scandal: Kirk and Kendra's secret bond. Were they simply friends caught in messy circumstances? Or was this the beginning of a betrayal that would tear apart multiple families, marriages, and friendships in front of the cameras? Whatever the truth, it was clear this wasn't just gossip. This was war. The night those screenshots hit the internet, it wasn't just a typical love and hip-hop rumor mill spinning out of control. It was an earthquake that rattled the cast, their families, and every fan who had followed their stories for years. The receipts Mendeecees posted weren't blurry, vague, or easily dismissed. They were crisp, clear, and detailed enough that nobody could say they were fake without sounding desperate. In them, Kirk's name showed up again and again, written in a tone that was far too familiar, far too comfortable, and far too suggestive when paired with the messages signed by Kendra. What at first looked like casual check-ins quickly spiraled into late-night conversations laced with emojis, inside jokes, and phrases that fans swore crossed every boundary of friendship. People immediately began dissecting the wording, analyzing timestamps, and speculating on how long this had been going on. Within hours, hashtags like #Kirk and Kendra and #Mendeecees receipts were trending. And the cast group chat reportedly lit up with rage, disbelief, and panic. Rashida, who had stood by Kirk through more scandals than most couples could survive, was said to be blindsided. Friends close to her claimed she was shaking when the texts surfaced, her phone buzzing nonstop, as producers, castmates, and family members demanded to know how she was going to respond. And then there was Jock, the man who had just tied his life to Kendra, suddenly forced to confront whispers that his wife might have been keeping secrets with someone he considered more Kirk's peer than his own. The tension between the two households was instant, and before the cameras even rolled, emotions were boiling over. Mendeecees himself wasn't shy about fueling the fire. He hopped on live the next morning with that cool, smug tone that only someone confident in their truth could deliver. "Don't act surprised," he told viewers, leaning into the camera. "Y'all know the type of games they play behind the scenes. I just got tired of watching it." Fans went wild, spamming the comments with shocked emojis, all caps reactions, and endless theories. Some were convinced it was all a publicity stunt, while others argued that Mendeecees had nothing to gain from fabricating such a claim. He wouldn't risk his marriage and his reputation over some fake screenshots, one fan posted, racking up thousands of likes. And yet, the more people scrutinized the texts, the more inconsistencies they thought they spotted. Why were certain messages cropped just short of a name? Why did the timestamps jump in odd ways? The conspiracy theories grew alongside the outrage. But no one could deny one thing: Kirk and Kendra owed the public an explanation. Behind the scenes, cameras were already rolling, capturing the raw fallout as Rashida confronted Kirk in their kitchen. Her voice cracked as she slammed her phone down on the counter, the screenshots glowing against the granite. "Explain this," she demanded, her eyes filling with tears that blurred the edges of her mascara. Kirk, visibly rattled, tried to backpedal. "Babe, it ain't what it looks like," he muttered, hands raised in a defensive gesture. But Rashida wasn't having it. "Don't you dare tell me it ain't what it looks like when the whole world is seeing you text another man's wife like she's your secret girlfriend." Her words cut through the room, raw and jagged, while producers whispered to each other about how monumental this footage would be. At the same time across town, Jock was pacing his living room, the phone buzzing with texts from friends, cousins, and fellow cast members all asking if he had seen what Mendeecees posted. Kendra sat curled up on the couch, clutching a pillow, her face pale but her eyes sharp with fury. "I told you I didn't do anything wrong," she snapped as Jock waved the phone in her face. "So why does it look like you and Kirk were having a whole private conversation behind my back?" Jock shot back, his voice rising. Their argument spilled into the open as the cameras zoomed in on every tense glance, every accusatory gesture. Fans watching the episode weeks later would replay the moment over and over, pausing on Kendra's clenched jaw and Jock's trembling hands as he demanded the truth. Meanwhile, Mendeecees wasn't finished. Hours after the first drop, he returned to social media with a second wave of receipts, this time hinting at voice notes and even more incriminating details. His post read simply, "This ain't even half of it. Y'all better stop playing with me." The ambiguity drove fans insane. What else could he possibly have that was worse than what had already been shown? Speculation exploded. Was it photos, videos, or something even more damaging? Every fan theory seemed more dramatic than the last, and even the cast couldn't tell what was real and what was a bluff. Back in Rashida's circle, her friends rallied around her. Carly Red was quick to make her opinion known, whispering in Rashida's ear that she should finally walk away. "How many times he gotta embarrass you, girl?" Carly asked during a filmed sit-down. Rashida shook her head, torn between rage and heartbreak. "I've built my whole life with this man. Businesses, family, everything. And now to see him in this mess again, I don't even know what's real anymore." The pain in her voice was undeniable, and fans flooded her comments with sympathy, urging her to put herself first. Jock, however, wasn't nearly as conflicted. His pride was bruised, and his patience snapped. He called Mendeecees directly, cameras capturing every second of the heated phone call. "If you had something to say, you should have come to me like a man instead of blasting it on Instagram," Jock shouted. Mendeecees didn't miss a beat. "I tried, Brooke. You ain't wanna hear it, so I let the world see for themselves." The line went dead with Jock throwing his phone across the room in frustration, the crack of the glass echoing louder than any response he could have given. And as if that weren't enough, other castmates started weighing in. Spice went live on her own account, shaking her head as she said, "I knew something was off at that reunion. The way they looked at each other. Don't act surprised. People." Erica Mena, never one to stay quiet, fanned the flames even higher with cryptic tweets about snakes in the circle and secrets always coming to light. The fan base split into camps: Team Rashida, Team Kendra, and the few who were clinging to the hope that somehow this was all just clever editing. But the drama had already snowballed past the point of no return. As the episode unfolded, emotions reached their peak when Rashida finally confronted Kendra in person. The air was thick with tension as the two women faced each other in a restaurant, the table between them feeling like a thin shield against the storm. Rashida's voice was steady but sharp. "You were supposed to be my friend. You stood at my events, smiled in my face, and all the while you were sneaking around with my husband." Kendra shot back immediately, her tone fierce. "Don't you dare put that on me. I didn't sneak around with anybody. Your husband came to me, and if you got a problem, take it up with him." Gasps filled the room as the argument escalated, their words bouncing off the walls with a venom that couldn't be faked. By the time producers called a break, both women were storming out in opposite directions, tears and fury trailing behind them. Fans later called it one of the most shocking confrontations in the franchise's history. A moment so raw and explosive that clips went viral before the episode even finished airing. Yet the biggest twist of all was still looming, because Mendeecees wasn't done. The man who had set the fire was holding on to something darker. Something that would turn everything the cast thought they knew upside down. And as night fell again, fans waited with bated breath, refreshing their feeds, praying or dreading that another bombshell was about to explode. The second wave of chaos hit like a thunderstorm that no one could escape, and by now, every corner of social media was glued to Mendeecees' page, waiting for the next shoe to drop. People weren't sleeping, notifications were piling up, and even blogs outside the love and hip-hop universe had started reporting on the scandal. When the clock struck midnight, he delivered again. This time, it wasn't just screenshots, it was a screen recording. Fans gasped when they realized they were watching Kirk's name pop up at the top of Kendra's phone, the bubbles of conversation moving in real. The back and forth between the two was undeniable, and the flirtatious undertones were impossible to ignore. "You know, I can't stop thinking about that night," one message read, followed by a string of emojis that sent the internet into meltdown. The implications were nuclear. Had Kirk and Kendra crossed a physical line? Was this more than texting? The reaction was immediate. Blogs posted the clip within minutes, Fans screen-grabbed every frame, and think pieces flooded Twitter and Instagram. Rashida has given this man chance after chance, and this is how he repays her. One fan wrote, "Jock just got married, and his wife already embarrassing him like this." Another added, "The family dynamics were collapsing in real time, and the weight of it all was suffocating." Rashida locked herself away for a full day, refusing to film, while Jock stormed through his house, throwing open closets and drawers as though looking for proof that Kendra was hiding something from him. Cameras caught him screaming into the phone with producers, demanding answers about why they hadn't told him sooner. "Y'all knew this before me, and you let me look stupid," he raged. Meanwhile, Kendra was in defense mode. She denied the physical accusations with every breath she had. Sitting across from her friend Sierra, tears streaming down her face, she insisted, "I never touched that man. Yes, we talked. Yes, maybe it was out of line sometimes, but it was never like that. I love Jock, and I would never do him like that." But Sierra's raised eyebrow told a different story, and fans watching later weren't convinced either. For them, the damage had already been done. Trust was shattered, reputations were shredded, and every smile Kendra had ever shown on screen now seemed like a mask. As if scripted by fate itself, Rashida and Jock ran into each other at the studio just days later. What started as a tense, polite conversation turned into an explosive scene when Jock slammed his phone onto the table, showing Rashida the recording Mendeecees had posted. "Tell me this ain't your husband talking about a night," he snapped. Rashida's face crumbled as she recognized Kirk's voice in the background of the leaked audio that accompanied the clip. For a moment, silence drowned the room, until Rashida whispered, "I knew it. I knew he was lying." Tears streaked her cheeks, but before she could gather herself, Jock's voice thundered through the walls. "So what about my wife? She had no business responding like that." The arguments spiraled, both of them shouting, both of them broken, both of them realizing their partners had dragged them into a scandal that could destroy more than just their marriages. It could ruin their entire circle. Mendeecees, watching it all unfold, doubled down on his role as the truth-teller. He posted again, this time in a cryptic video where he sat back in his chair, arms crossed, and said, "If they keep denying, I'll drop the rest. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet." That one line set the internet ablaze. What more could he possibly have? Fans speculated that he was holding on to photos, videos, or even DMIs that would prove beyond any doubt that Kirk and Kendra had stepped far over the line. Some people begged him to release it all, while others urged him to stop before he completely destroyed families. But Mendeecees wasn't listening. He felt betrayed by both Kirk and Kendra, and in his mind, exposing them was the only way to make things right. Behind the cameras, the producers scrambled to contain the mess, but it was like trying to hold water in their hands. Every cast member had an opinion, and every opinion was loud. Spice filmed her confessional with a smirk, saying, "Listen, I don't care what anybody says. Ain't no man texting another woman like that unless something went down. Point blank. Period." Erica Mena poured gasoline on the fire with a dramatic Instagram story, posting, "Sometimes the truth hurts, but at least it's the truth." The fanbase was torn, but everyone agreed on one thing. This season had officially become the most explosive in love and hip-hop history. And just when the dust seemed like it couldn't get any thicker, a shocking twist came from the one person no one expected, Rashida's teenage son. He had seen the posts, the texts, the recordings, and in a heartbreaking moment caught on camera, he turned to his mother and said, "Mom, why do you let him keep doing this to you?" The room fell silent as Rashida broke down in front of her child, realizing the scandal had reached deeper than just her marriage. It had shaken her family, her home, her very foundation. Fans cried watching the scene, and for many, it shifted their sympathy fully onto her shoulders. Still, questions remained. What really happened between Kirk and Kendra? Was Mendeecees telling the full truth, or was he spinning the story to hurt them both for reasons only he knew? The answers were hidden, but the drama was far from over, because, as whispers spread of even more damning evidence waiting in Mendeecees' phone, the cast braced for impact, not knowing whose life would be shattered next. The fallout grew heavier by the hour, and what started as a scandal of texts and late-night whispers had now snowballed into a storm no one could control. By the time the next episode picked up, the air in Atlanta was electric, and everyone was bracing for the next explosion. Mendeecees wasn't slowing down. In fact, he seemed energized by the chaos. While Rashida and Jock were reeling, Mendeecees hopped back on Instagram Live with an icy calmness that fans said was scarier than his actual receipts. "See, they thought I was bluffin'," he said, leaning back in his chair as the comments scrolled by at lightning speed. "But when you lie on me, when you disrespect me, I got no choice but to tell the truth. Y'all mad at me? Be mad at the liars. His words cut through the feed like knives, and once again, the blogs lit up, grabbing screenshots and headlines within seconds. Kirk, meanwhile, was unraveling. Once the king of denial, once the man who could weasel his way out of anything. He was now visibly sweating under the weight of his own mess. At home with Rashida, he tried to spin the story once more, claiming Mendeecees had altered the messages. Anybody can change texts, babe. You know that, he insisted. But Rashida's eyes were cold, her voice low and trembling with fury. Then why does it sound exactly like you? Why do you always end up in these messes? Why is it always me cleaning up after your lies? Her words echoed in the kitchen, and fans later commented that it was the first time they saw Rashida look like she was done, not just angry, but truly finished. Across town, Jock wasn't handling things much better. He met with Scrappy, pacing the floor as he vented about Kendra. I just married this woman, Scrap. I just gave her my last name, my house, my everything. And she out here texting Kirk like it's some middle school crush. Scrappy shook his head, offering sympathy but also warning Jock not to let his temper ruin him. Bro, if you confront her wild, the camera's gone, catch it, and it'll look worse on you. Play it smart. But Jock wasn't in the mood to play smart. The humiliation of being the last to know, of fans clowning him online with memes, of being the butt of every group chat joke, it was eating him alive. Kendra, meanwhile, was stuck in her own spiral. Sitting with her mother, she tried to explain herself, swearing up and down that nothing physical ever happened. Mama, I promise you, I never touched that man. It was stupid, it was reckless, but it wasn't that. Jock don't believe me, and now the whole world think I'm lying. Her mother's face was stern, her voice sharp. Baby, it ain't just about what you did or didn't do, it's about how it looks. You put yourself in a position where people can question your loyalty, and once that trust is gone, it don't come back easy. Fans watching later flooded the comments with mixed feelings. Some believed Kendra's tears, others thought they were staged, but everyone agreed the tension was too real to be fake. Just when fans thought the scandal had peaked, Mendeecees dropped the third bomb. This time, it wasn't texts. It wasn't recordings. It was photos grainy, taken from what looked like a security camera outside a hotel. The images showed Kirk and Kendra standing close, too close, whispering in the shadows of a parking lot. One shot captured Kirk's hand brushing against Kendra's arm. Another showed them slipping inside together. The internet imploded. This ain't no friendly meetup, one fan posted. This is sneaking. Blogs plastered the photos everywhere. Fans zoomed in and analyzed every detail, and the narrative shifted from suspicion to near. Rashida saw the pictures on her phone before Kirk even had a chance to prepare his excuses. In one of the rawest scenes yet, she sat in her car, tears falling silently as she stared at the images. After everything, after all the years, after all the chances, I can't believe you're still doing this to me, she whispered, her voice breaking. When Kirk tried to explain, she cut him off, her anger boiling to the surface. Save it. Don't you dare insult me with more lies. You've embarrassed me enough. Fans called it one of Rashida's strongest moments, a scene where her heartbreak turned into steel, and for once, Kirk's usual defenses couldn't hold. Jock's confrontation with Kendra was even more explosive. He stormed into their living room, photos in hand, tossing them onto the coffee table. So what's this? Kendra, you gone tell me this is Photoshop too? Kendra's face crumbled, but she pushed back, insisting the meeting was innocent. We were talking about business. Jock. It wasn't what it looks like. Jock's voice shook with rage. At midnight, at a hotel. You think I'm that stupid? Their shouting match spilled out onto the street. Neighbors peeking through blinds as the cameras captured every second of the chaos. It was raw, messy, and heartbreaking, the kind of reality TV moment that fans couldn't look away from. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast was watching from the sidelines, each one weighing in. Spice posted another live, saying, I told y'all, where there's smoke, there's fire. Carly Red claimed she'd seen the vibe between Kirk and Kendra months ago. Erica Mena stirred the pot even further, sliding into the comments with, this ain't even surprising. Loyalty is dead out here. The fan base split into factions, debates raging across every platform. Some defended Kendra, saying the evidence was circumstantial, while others declared her guilty on sight. But no matter what side they picked, everyone agreed. The drama was far from over. And then came the biggest twist yet, one that nobody, not even the producers, saw coming. During a private conversation filmed off schedule, Mendeecees hinted that there was more to his vendetta than just exposing Kirk and Kendra. See, this ain't just about texts or receipts, he told a friend, his voice low but firm. This about respect. They crossed me, and when you cross me, I don't let it slide. The words were vague, but they carried weight. What had Kirk and Kendra done to push Mendeecees this far? Was it personal? Was it revenge? Or was this all part of a bigger game that nobody else understood? The questions swirled. The theories grew darker. And the scandal that started with a few texts now loomed like a thundercloud over the entire cast. Families were fractured, friendships were broken, and reputations hung by a thread. But one thing was clear. Mendeecees wasn't finished yet. He had promised more, and if his track record was any indication, the next revelation would make everything so far look like child's play. By the time the next morning rolled around, the city felt like it had been plunged into a storm that no one could escape. Every social media platform was buzzing. Fans dissecting every frame of the leaked videos, every grainy photo, and every text message that Mendeecees had shared. The comment sections were a mix of outrage, sympathy, and pure, unfiltered chaos. I can't believe Kirk would do Rashida like this, one fan posted, emojis filling the post. And Kendra, girl, what were you thinking? Another chimed in, Jock just got married. How do you even recover from this? The internet had taken a scandal and elevated it to full-blown spectacle. And everyone knew the fallout wasn't just going to fizzle out. Rashida, still reeling from the bombshells, tried to maintain her composure in front of the cameras. Producers pushed her into a confessional booth, hoping to capture her raw emotions for the upcoming episode. With tears streaking her face and mascara running, she looked directly into the lens and whispered, I can't even look at him right now. I don't know if I want to hear anything he says. This isn't just betrayal, it's humiliation, and it's in front of the whole world. Fans watching were shocked at the vulnerability, and many flooded the comments with support. But even in the midst of heartbreak, there was fire in her eyes. A determination that she wouldn't just be a victim of the drama. Jock, on the other hand, had gone into overdrive. His trust in Kendra was shattered, and every interaction between them was a powder keg waiting to ignite. During a heated confrontation in their home, cameras rolling as always, he slammed the table with his fists. I married you, Kendra. I gave you my life, my name, my everything, and now I'm supposed to just ignore this. Kendra, tears streaming down her face, shouted back, I've told you 100 times. Nothing happened. You think I'd throw away my marriage over some texts? The argument escalated, voices bouncing off the walls, until producers finally stepped in to calm the scene. But the damage had already been done. Fans later called this the most intense confrontation in the franchise's history, replaying every second online for weeks. Meanwhile, Mendeecees remained the calm center of the storm. His social media presence was almost unnervingly poised. In a cryptic post, he teased, y'all think you know the half of it? Nah, wait till the next drop. The ambiguity sent fans into a frenzy. What could possibly be more damaging than what had already been revealed? Speculation reached fever pitch. Was it a secret meeting? Hidden conversations? Or something far more scandalous that no one had anticipated? The uncertainty kept everyone on edge, tuning into every live stream, every story, every post, waiting for the next bombshell. Back in Rashida's circle, her friends and allies rallied around her. Carly Red gave her advice in the green room, leaning in close, whispering, girl, you gotta stand your ground. Don't let him gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. Rashida nodded, taking in the support, but her mind was elsewhere. She replayed every interaction with Kirk over the past months, trying to pinpoint where things had gone wrong. The betrayal was more than just emotionally, it was public. And the humiliation was compounded by the presence of cameras, producers, and fans who had now inserted themselves into her personal life. Kendra, isolated and defensive, sought counsel from her own friends. Sitting across from a loyal confidant, she pleaded, I didn't do anything wrong. I swear, I never crossed that line. But now Jock doesn't believe me. The world doesn't believe me. And Mendeecees, he's relentless. Her friend sighed, trying to offer comfort while also acknowledging the reality of the situation. Baby, it doesn't matter if you're innocent. What matters is how it looks, and right now, it looks really bad. You have to tread carefully, because this can spiral further if you're not careful. The tension was palpable, the stakes higher than ever, and for Kendra, it was a fight for her reputation as much as for her marriage. Then came the unexpected twist that nobody saw coming. During an impromptu cast gathering, a leaked voicemail from Kirk surfaced, recorded months prior but never aired. In it, he could be heard laughing and referencing inside jokes with Kendra that went far beyond friendly banter. The tone, the context, and the content were explosive. Producers immediately recognized the value, and fans went wild. Clips were shared, debated, and dissected frame by frame. "That's not just texting," one fan tweeted. "That's inappropriate. And he knows it." Another post declared, "Kendra's in deeper than she wants to admit. Jock needs to wake up." The evidence was mounting, and the drama, already intense, reached new heights. Amidst all of this, Rashida made a public statement during a recorded interview segment. Her voice was steady, controlled, but filled with unmistakable pain. "I love my family. I love my kids. But what I cannot stand for is lies. What I cannot stand for is disrespect. And when the truth comes out, I will be there to face it head-on." The statement sent ripples across the fanbase. Some praised her bravery, others saw it as a calculated move. But everyone agreed that she had reclaimed some control over a situation that had spiraled wildly out of her hands. And just when the audience thought the storm had peaked, Mendeecees hinted at the final, most shocking reveal. In another live video, he leaned toward the camera and said, "Y'all think this is the end? Nah. You don't know the half of what's coming. Stay tuned, because when I drop the rest, it's gonna change everything you thought you knew." Fans were left in a state of anticipation bordering on panic. The scandal had started with a few texts, escalated with recordings and photos, and now, the final chapter promised to blow the entire season wide open. Every cast member was on edge, families were fractured, and the city watched as reality TV history unfolded in real. The ripple effect was undeniable. Friendships that had lasted for years were strained, marriages were tested, and fans couldn't stop consuming every post, every video, every snippet of dialogue. Analysts called it the most meticulously orchestrated scandal in reality TV history. A storm that had started small but now engulfed everyone in its path. And through it all, Mendeecees remained at the center. Calm, collected, and ready to pull the trigger on the next reveal, leaving everyone wondering, how much more could the cast withstand before the walls came crashing down completely? The tension only intensified as the days progressed, and the fallout from Mendeecees' revelations began infiltrating every aspect of the cast's lives. By now, even casual fans couldn't escape the frenzy. Every public appearance, every social media post, every caption was dissected for hidden meanings. Fans scrutinized every smile, every pause, every glance between Kirk and Kendra, trying to discern the truth behind the scandal. The pressure wasn't just external. Inside their homes, the cast members were unraveling under the weight of relentless scrutiny. Kirk, who had once been quick with excuses, now found himself second-guessing every word he spoke. Every conversation, no matter how casual, felt like it could become the next viral moment. Rashida's composure was tested like never before. Filming a confessional, she revealed how the betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. "You think you know someone," she said quietly, eyes welling with tears. "And then you find out the person you trusted the most is capable of hurting you like this, in front of everyone you care about, and the world is watching." Her words resonated with fans, many of whom had followed her journey for years and felt a deep connection to her struggles. Social media lit up with support, sympathy, and advice. Yet, beneath the outpouring of empathy, the pain of public humiliation remained a sharp edge that Rashida had to navigate while keeping her family and personal life intact. Meanwhile, Jock and Kendra were at a crossroads. Each conversation between them seemed to teeter on the brink of collapse. "Do you even realize how this looks?" Jock shouted during a heated exchange caught on camera. Kendra's voice cracked as she attempted to defend herself. "I've told you 100 times. It's not what you think. Please, just believe me." But trust had been fractured, and the cameras captured every second of the tension. Friends who came to mediate found themselves caught in the middle of a storm too massive to control. Fans debated endlessly. Was Kendra innocent, or was she hiding something deeper? The uncertainty fueled speculation, and the narrative grew more tangled with each passing day. Mendeecees, meanwhile, continued to escalate the situation. A new post appeared, this one cryptic, yet menacing. A blurred image of a message preview that hinted at an even larger secret. The caption read, "Y'all ain't ready for this. When I drop it, everyone's world changes." The ambiguity drove fans into a frenzy. Every rumor, every theory, every whispered speculation was analyzed and shared across platforms. Bloggers and influencers dissected every angle, attempting to predict what might come next. The tension was palpable, and the anticipation became almost unbearable. Behind the scenes, the cast's personal lives were crumbling. Kirk found himself isolated, friends hesitant to take sides while producers carefully navigated the explosive storylines. Rashida leaned on her closest allies, yet even they admitted the situation was volatile. "You're stronger than this, Rashida," one confidant said, trying to offer reassurance. "But you've got to protect yourself now, not just react." The advice was sound, yet the emotional toll was undeniable. Every step forward seemed fraught with risk, every decision scrutinized under the unforgiving lens of public attention. Kendra, too, felt the pressure mounting. In a private confessional, she admitted, "I don't know how to fix this. No matter what I say, no matter what I do, people already have their opinion. I can't control the narrative, and it's destroying me." Her vulnerability was evident, and fans empathized even as they debated her culpability. Social media became a courtroom, with fans and fellow cast members serving as judge, jury, and sometimes executioner, all while Mendeecees held the next piece of evidence like a loaded gun. Then, the scandal took another shocking turn. A leaked audio clip surfaced from a late-night phone call between Kirk and an unknown party, and the content was explosive. The conversation hinted at financial deals, personal favors, and relationships that had been hidden from both Rashida and Jock. The timing of the call, just days before Mendeecees' initial post, suggested a level of premeditation that fueled further speculation. Fans dissected the clip endlessly, analyzing tone, pauses, and background noise, searching for clues about the depth of the deception. As the days went on, tensions between cast members escalated to unprecedented levels. Rashida confronted Kirk in a scene that would later be described as one of the most intense in franchise history. "I trusted you with everything," she screamed, her voice echoing through the house. "And this is how you repay me." Kirk, sweating and visibly stressed, attempted to defend himself. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered, but the conviction in his voice was drowned out by the intensity of her fury. Fans watching at home were captivated, many replaying the confrontation multiple times, each viewing revealing new layers of emotion and raw conflict. Simultaneously, Jock demanded answers from Kendra, insisting on transparency and accountability. Their argument, filmed with cameras rolling, became a public spectacle. "If there's nothing to hide, then show me," Jock shouted, his frustration palpable. Kendra's defensive posture and tearful denials only heightened the drama. Friends and family attempted mediation, but the cameras captured the irreparable tension. Social media exploded with reaction videos, opinion polls, and endless discussion, making it clear that the storyline had captured the full attention of the public. The stakes continued to rise as Mendeecees teased further evidence, hinting at content that could shift the balance entirely. "You think you've seen it all," he posted on Instagram. "You ain't seen nothing yet." The suspense created a perfect storm, with fans, producers, and cast members alike waiting anxiously for the next revelation. Each new drop of content escalated emotions, forcing confrontations, betrayals, and alliances into the spotlight in ways no one could have anticipated. As the narrative unfolded, it became clear that this was more than a scandal. It was a full-scale unraveling of relationships, reputations, and trust. Families were divided, friendships strained, and every interaction was charged with the weight of suspicion and betrayal. Mendeecees' careful orchestration of the revelations kept everyone on edge, and the audience, addicted to the unfolding drama, couldn't look away. The storm was far from over, and every new detail promised to ignite the next round of chaos. The tension between Kirk and Rashida had reached a fever pitch that seemed impossible to contain. And as the days passed, the drama spread like wildfire, consuming everyone in its path. Kirk, once confident and charismatic, now stumbled over his own words, unable to defend himself against the mounting evidence that Mendeecees had meticulously compiled. Every interaction, every glance, every casual conversation was now under intense scrutiny, and the weight of public judgment pressed down on him relentlessly. Rashida, meanwhile, transformed her pain into a fierce determination to reclaim control over her life and her narrative. Sitting in the confessional, tears streaking her face, she looked directly into the camera and declared, "I will not be made a fool of. I will not let lies dictate the story of my life. I trusted, I loved, and I gave my all. But now it's time for the truth to rise above the chaos." Fans watching were captivated by the raw emotion, the vulnerability, and the quiet strength that radiated from her. Every post, every comment, every reaction across social media amplified the tension, creating a frenzy that seemed impossible to escape. The leak of Kirk and Kendra's texts had ignited a chain reaction that no one could have predicted. Messages, photos, and recordings surfaced, each more damning than the last. The images of Kirk and Kendra together, seemingly innocuous at first glance, were dissected by fans and bloggers alike. With every touch, every smile, every casual brush of the hand analyzed and debated. The line between innocent interaction and betrayal blurred under the intense gaze of an audience hungry for drama. and the consequences were immediate. Rashida's friends and allies rallied around her, offering support while simultaneously preparing for the inevitable public confrontations that would follow. Carly Red, ever the voice of reason and mischief, advised her to remain strong, to hold her ground and not let Kirk manipulate the narrative. "You're stronger than he knows," she whispered during a private moment, her eyes filled with understanding. "But be careful, every move you make is being watched, and every reaction is fodder for the cameras and the fans." Rashida nodded, absorbing the advice, but the burden of betrayal weighed heavily on her shoulders. Jock and Kendra were not immune to the storm either. The scandal had cast a shadow over their newlywed bliss, forcing them to navigate a minefield of suspicion and emotional turbulence. Every conversation between them teetered on the edge of collapse, each argument escalating with the added pressure of cameras capturing every second. Jock's frustration was palpable, his trust in Kendra eroded by the evidence that had surfaced. "How do I even begin to believe you?" he demanded during one confrontation, his voice shaking with anger and hurt. Kendra, desperate to defend herself, pleaded, "I never crossed that line. You have to trust me, I love you." The tension was almost unbearable, the emotional stakes so high that even the production team struggled to maintain a semblance of order. Behind the scenes, Mendeecees remained a calculated force, orchestrating the releases of texts, images, and recordings with precision. Each new drop escalated the drama, creating waves of speculation and debate across social media platforms. The ambiguity of his posts, paired with the timing of each revelation, kept fans on edge, eagerly awaiting the next bombshell. Cryptic messages, blurred images, and insinuations about hidden secrets fueled a cycle of frenzy that seemed impossible to break. Producers scrambled to capture every reaction, every confrontation, understanding that this storyline would define the season and become the most talked about arc in the franchise's history. The pressure on the cast was relentless. Rashida, though outwardly composed at times, struggled with the emotional toll of public humiliation and private betrayal. Late-night conversations with trusted friends often ended with tears and whispered confessions of disbelief. "I gave him everything," she admitted during one emotional moment, "and this is how he repays me." In front of the world, the empathy from fans was overwhelming, but it could not erase the sting of betrayal or the fear of the unknown consequences of the leaks. Meanwhile, Kendra's position was equally precarious. Isolated and defensive, she navigated the fallout with a mixture of denial and desperation. Friends who tried to offer guidance often found themselves caught between her pleas for belief and the mounting evidence that suggested otherwise. "You have to think about the optics," one confidant advised. "Even if you're innocent, appearances matter. You need to handle this carefully, or the narrative will define you." The complexities of public perception weighed heavily, and every misstep had the potential to ignite further controversy. As the scandal evolved, additional evidence emerged that compounded the tension. Leaked voicemail recordings and audio clips hinted at premeditation and secret dealings, raising questions about the extent of Kirk and Kendra's actions. Each new piece of content was dissected by fans, bloggers, and analysts alike, creating a constant cycle of speculation and debate. Social media became a digital courtroom, with every comment and post serving as testimony, judgment, and verdict simultaneously. The pressure on the cast was compounded by the relentless attention of the media. Interviews, live streams, and paparazzi coverage ensured that no moment was private, and every action was potentially headline material. Producers balanced the desire for dramatic content with the emotional well-being of the cast, often stepping in to mediate conflicts before they spiraled further. Despite these efforts, the volatility of the situation meant that tension remained high, and the potential for explosive confrontations was ever present. One of the most significant turning points came during a live social media interaction, where fans were invited to submit questions directly to the cast. Rashida, poised and articulate, addressed the controversy with measured honesty, refusing to speculate on intentions or assign blame beyond what was evident. Her composure and clarity garnered praise, and many fans viewed her as a voice of reason amid chaos. Conversely, Kendra struggled during the same session, her answers hesitant and defensive, further fueling suspicion among viewers. The contrast between their responses became a focal point of discussion, highlighting the emotional and psychological toll the scandal had exacted on everyone involved. As the narrative unfolded, alliances and loyalties shifted. Friends and family members found themselves navigating delicate dynamics, choosing sides carefully, or attempting to mediate disputes. The interconnected nature of relationships meant that every action had repercussions, and the ripple effects of Mendeecees' revelations reached far beyond the immediate parties involved. Trust, once fractured, proved difficult to repair. And the long-term impact on personal relationships was a recurring theme throughout the unfolding drama. In parallel, the audience engagement reached unprecedented levels. Fans debated every nuance, from the tone of a text message to the implications of a shared glance, creating a participatory experience that amplified the emotional stakes. Memes, reaction videos, and discussion threads proliferated, turning the scandal into a cultural phenomenon. The digital ecosystem became an extension of the narrative, with viewers actively shaping perceptions and interpretations of events as they unfolded. Complicating matters further, production decisions and scheduling introduced additional tension. Filming schedules, interviews, and public appearances had to be carefully managed to balance content creation with the cast's emotional capacity. Each episode captured raw confrontations and private confessions, ensuring that viewers experienced both the public spectacle and the intimate consequences of the scandal. The interplay between reality and perception, between private experience and public narrative, created a complex tapestry that engaged audiences on multiple levels. Ultimately, the unfolding events highlighted the fragility of trust, the consequences of deception, and the pervasive influence of public scrutiny. The combination of personal betrayal, emotional volatility, and strategic revelation created a storyline that was both compelling and emotionally resonant. Cast members navigated a landscape fraught with uncertainty, balancing personal integrity with the demands of reality television. While audiences remained captivated by the drama's intensity, every development, from leaked texts to explosive confrontations, reinforced the stakes and deepened engagement, ensuring that the scandal would remain a defining moment in the franchise's history. Amid the escalating chaos, Mendeecees maintained control over the narrative, his calculated releases of information orchestrating the emotional arc of the storyline. His role as both instigator and observer underscored the complexity of power dynamics within the cast, as well as the influence of external perception in shaping outcomes. The careful timing and presentation of evidence maximized suspense and amplified emotional reactions, ensuring that each revelation had maximum impact. By manipulating the flow of information, he created a scenario in which the cast and the audience were simultaneously participants and spectators, navigating the tension between private reality and public spectacle. In conclusion, the combination of interpersonal conflict, strategic information release, and intense audience engagement produced a narrative that was both compelling and emotionally charged. The evolving dynamics between Kirk, Rashida, Jock, and Kendra demonstrated the intricate interplay of trust, betrayal, and perception, while the involvement of Mendeecees added layers of complexity and suspense. The ongoing revelations, coupled with the reactions of friends, family, and fans, created a storyline that was immersive, emotionally resonant, and emblematic of the heightened drama that defines reality television at its most engaging. Through a series of meticulously timed disclosures, emotional confrontations, and public interactions, the scandal not only captivated audiences, but also reshaped relationships, reputations, and the social landscape of the cast, leaving an indelible mark on the franchise and its viewers. The fallout from Mendeecees' explosive revelations continued to ripple through the lives of everyone involved, creating a maelstrom of emotions, speculation, and relentless scrutiny that seemed impossible to escape. By now, the scandal had reached an apex where every glance, every word, every social media post was dissected for hidden meaning. And the consequences for the cast were immediate and severe. Kirk, once a figure of confidence and control, now appeared fractured, defensive, and constantly on edge, struggling to navigate the labyrinth of public opinion, private confrontations, and the ever-present cameras that captured his every move. In private moments, he replayed conversations and interactions, questioning his own judgment and the potential fallout of every action, while Rashida, who had transformed her initial shock into a steely resolve, refused to let the situation define her, even as she processed the emotional weight of betrayal. "I trusted you with everything," she confessed during a confessional, her voice quivering yet laced with strength. "And this is how you repay me." In front of the world, her words struck a chord with fans, many of whom had followed her journey and empathized deeply with the raw, unfiltered emotion she displayed. Social media erupted in response, a cacophony of support, outrage, and debate that kept the scandal alive in the public consciousness and ensured that every development was amplified across platforms. Jock and Kendra were likewise ensnared in the whirlwind, their newlywed relationship subjected to a level of scrutiny that intensified every argument and magnified every moment of tension. The leaked texts and images had planted seeds of doubt that now grew into towering walls of suspicion, with every interaction teetering on the precipice of collapse. In one particularly volatile confrontation, Jock slammed his hands on a table, voice cracking with anger and hurt, demanding explanations from Kendra. "How do you even expect me to believe you?" he shouted, the cameras capturing every tremor of his emotion. Kendra, tears streaming down her face, responded with equal desperation, insisting that her actions had been innocent and that she had never crossed the boundaries that Jock feared. The intensity of the moment, compounded by the presence of cameras, transformed what might have been a private argument into a spectacle for millions, creating a feedback loop where personal pain became entertainment, and the consequences of betrayal were amplified by the public gaze. Meanwhile, Mendeecees maintained an almost unsettling composure, orchestrating the timing and content of each revelation with precision that ensured maximum impact. Each new post, cryptic message, or hint at undisclosed evidence kept fans on edge, generating speculation that ranged from the plausible to the absurd, and the narrative became increasingly complex and difficult to untangle. Bloggers, commentators, and fans pored over every detail, analyzing tone, context, and timing to extract meaning, while producers worked tirelessly to capture the most compelling footage for episodes that promised to be historic in their drama. Within this environment, personal relationships were strained to the breaking point. Rashida leaned on her closest allies, who provided emotional support and guidance. But the weight of public humiliation and private betrayal remained heavy. Late-night conversations with friends often ended in tears, whispered confessions of disbelief, and discussions of strategy for how to navigate the storm. "You have to be strong," one confidant advised, "but you also have to protect yourself. This isn't just about what he did, it's about how you survive in the aftermath." Rashida internalized these lessons, her strength and resilience growing as she began to assert control over her narrative, ensuring that her voice was heard amid the chaos. Kendra, in contrast, struggled with isolation and defensiveness, her attempts to clarify the situation often hampered by the mounting evidence and the intense scrutiny of both Jock and the public. Friends offered advice, emphasizing the importance of managing appearances and controlling the narrative, but the emotional toll was undeniable. "Even if you're innocent," one friend cautioned, "people will see what they want to see. You have to be strategic, or this will define you in ways you can't undo." Compounding the strain were additional leaks that surfaced seemingly out of nowhere, radio clips, voicemails, and behind-the-scenes recordings that suggested deeper layers of deception and premeditation. Fans and media outlets dissected these materials with obsessive attention, parsing tone, inflection, and context to draw conclusions about intent, guilt, and the broader implications for the relationships involved. Each revelation further inflamed tensions, sparking new arguments, reshaping alliances, and creating an environment where no conversation could occur without the possibility of exposure. The cast's social and professional circles became entangled in the drama, with friends, family members, and colleagues navigating delicate dynamics, attempting to mediate disputes or offer guidance while simultaneously being drawn into the maelstrom themselves. Trust, once fractured, proved exceedingly difficult to repair, and the emotional repercussions extended far beyond the immediate scandal. In parallel, the audience engagement reached unprecedented levels, transforming the scandal into a cultural phenomenon. Fans analyzed every nuance of behavior, from micro-expressions to seemingly innocuous interactions, creating a participatory experience that blurred the line between observer and participant. Memes, reaction videos, live commentary, and discussion threads proliferated, reinforcing the drama and magnifying the stakes for all involved. The digital landscape became an extension of the narrative, with public perception exerting tangible influence over the course of events. Production decisions added another layer of complexity. Filming schedules, interviews, and public appearances required careful orchestration to balance narrative content with the emotional capacity of the cast. Each episode captured the crescendo of confrontations, private confessions, and public reactions, ensuring that viewers experienced both the spectacle and the personal consequences of the scandal. The interplay between reality and perception, between private truth and public narrative, created a dynamic that was immersive, emotionally resonant, and perpetually unpredictable. As the story progressed, alliances shifted and loyalties were tested. Friends and family were forced to navigate the treacherous terrain of side-taking, mediation, and personal risk, often finding that their own positions and reputations were implicated in the unfolding drama. The interconnectedness of relationships meant that every decision carried potential consequences. And the ripple effects of Mendeecees' revelations reverberated throughout the social ecosystem of the cast. The result was a narrative marked by complexity, tension, and relentless emotional intensity. One of the most significant moments came during a live interaction in which fans were invited to pose questions directly to the cast. Rashida's measured, articulate responses contrasted sharply with Kendra's hesitant and defensive answers, highlighting the emotional and psychological impact of the scandal. The public nature of the interaction intensified scrutiny. As every answer, pause, and expression was analyzed for clues about culpability and intent, viewers responded in real time, amplifying the tension and adding another layer to the already intricate web of perception and reality. Mendeecees' role as orchestrator of the revelations underscored the influence of information control within the narrative. By strategically releasing content, he manipulated the emotional trajectory of both the cast and the audience, creating a scenario in which anticipation, suspense, and conflict were continually heightened. Each leak, whether text, image, or recording, was calibrated to maximize drama, and the timing ensured that the fallout was sustained, keeping all parties on edge. The meticulous nature of these releases exemplified the interplay of strategy, emotion, and narrative control that defined the scandal. Emotional volatility continued to dominate the landscape. Rashida, despite outward composure at times, confronted the ongoing impact of betrayal and public humiliation in private moments. Kendra wrestled with defensive instincts and isolation, while Jock navigated the dual pressures of personal hurt and public expectation. Kirk, too, faced mounting internal conflict, as attempts to justify actions clashed with the visible evidence and the unrelenting scrutiny of fans, friends, and production. Each cast member's response contributed to a dynamic that was both unpredictable and compelling, drawing viewers deeper into the narrative. The sustained audience engagement underscored the power of participatory viewership, as fans actively contributed to the interpretation, dissemination, and amplification of events. Social media became a platform for debate, speculation, and communal investment in outcomes, with viewers assuming roles as both analysts and participants in the unfolding drama. The interplay between audience perception and narrative progression created a feedback loop in which public reaction influenced behavior, strategy, and emotional expression within the cast. Complicating the landscape further were the logistical demands of production. Filming, scheduling, and content curation required constant attention to ensure that the narrative arc remained compelling while accommodating the unpredictable behavior of cast members. Producers balanced the need for dramatic content with ethical considerations, emotional support, and the psychological well-being of participants. The constant negotiation between entertainment value and personal impact added layers of tension and complexity to an already volatile situation. At its core, the scandal illuminated the fragility of trust and the consequences of deception. Relationships were strained or irreparably damaged. Reputations were scrutinized and contested, and the emotional stakes for all involved reached extraordinary heights. The combination of personal betrayal, strategic revelation, and intense public engagement created a storyline that was both immersive and resonant, reflecting broader themes of accountability, perception, and the intersection of private reality with public spectacle. Through meticulous orchestration, emotional confrontation, and the participatory nature of audience engagement, the scandal not only captivated viewers but also reshaped relationships, power dynamics, and social narratives within the cast and their extended network. In navigating this turbulent environment, the cast faced the dual challenge of managing personal integrity and emotional resilience, while simultaneously contending with the relentless scrutiny of a captivated audience. Each new development, confrontation, or revelation had the potential to shift alliances, alter perceptions, and redefine the trajectory of relationships, highlighting the intricate and high-stakes nature of interpersonal dynamics under the unrelenting gaze of reality television. Ultimately, the narrative demonstrated the complex interplay between truth, perception, and emotion, revealing the profound impact of strategic information release, audience engagement, and personal vulnerability in shaping outcomes. The scandal evolved into a phenomenon that was simultaneously personal and performative, intimate and public, creating a multi-layered experience that engaged viewers on emotional, cognitive, and social levels. The consequences extended beyond immediate interpersonal conflicts, influencing broader perceptions, social alliances, and long-term reputational considerations. ensuring that the impact of Mendeecees' revelations would resonate long after the initial shockwaves had subsided. By maintaining control over the timing, content, and dissemination of evidence, Mendeecees amplified suspense, emotional intensity, and narrative complexity, reinforcing his role as both catalyst and arbiter within the unfolding drama. The careful calibration of disclosures, combined with the cast's emotional volatility and the audience's participatory engagement, produced a storyline that was immersive, compelling, and unprecedented in its reach, cementing the scandal as a defining moment in the history of the franchise. The interplay of personal betrayal, strategic revelation, and audience investment ensured that every development was consequential, every interaction significant, and every emotional response amplified, creating a narrative that was both consuming and unforgettable. The scandal that had erupted from Mendeecees' revelations had by now become a full-blown storm, engulfing the cast in a maelstrom of scrutiny, speculation, and relentless emotional pressure. Each day brought new challenges, as the lines between private life and public spectacle blurred, and every action was analyzed, critiqued, and amplified across social media and news outlets. Kirk, whose confidence had once seemed unshakable, now found himself constantly second-guessing his words and actions. Every glance in Rashida's direction, every casual comment, every interaction with Kendra or Jock was under a microscope, and he struggled to maintain composure as the tension mounted. The emotional toll was immense, leaving him vulnerable, reactive, and increasingly isolated as friends and allies hesitated to intervene in a situation that had escalated beyond control. Rashida, meanwhile, channeled her heartbreak into resilience, refusing to allow the betrayal to define her or diminish her strength. In one particularly poignant confessional, she addressed the camera with a quiet intensity, her voice firm yet tinged with pain. "I gave everything I had, and I was met with lies, deceit, and betrayal. I refuse to let that break me. I will stand tall, I will speak my truth, and I will not be silenced." Her words resonated deeply with fans, who flooded social media with messages of support, admiration, and encouragement, ensuring that her perspective was heard amid the cacophony of speculation and gossip. The leak of texts between Kirk and Kendra had initially ignited the scandal, but as additional evidence emerged, voicemails, audio recordings, and photos, the drama deepened and became more intricate. Each new revelation added layers of complexity to the narrative, providing fans, bloggers, and commentators with fresh material to dissect and debate. The interpretation of intent, tone, and context became a central focus, with viewers analyzing every detail to determine the true nature of the relationships and actions involved. This obsessive scrutiny created a high-stakes environment where missteps could be amplified into major controversies, and even the smallest nuance of behavior could spark a storm of reaction. Jock and Kendra's relationship, already strained, became a focal point of public attention, as every conversation, argument, and private interaction was magnified through the lens of suspicion. During a particularly heated confrontation, Jock demanded clarity, his voice tense with frustration and hurt. "You keep saying nothing happened, but how am I supposed to believe that when all this evidence exists?" Kendra, desperate to assert her innocence, responded with tearful conviction, "I love you. I've done nothing to betray you, and I need you to trust me." The cameras captured every second of the exchange, ensuring that viewers could witness the emotional intensity firsthand. While social media exploded with analysis, commentary, and speculation, Mendeecees continued to play a calculated role in the unfolding drama, strategically releasing information to maximize impact and sustain suspense. Each post, hint, and cryptic message served to heighten anticipation, keep fans engaged, and ensure that the narrative remained dynamic and unpredictable. By controlling the timing and content of each revelation, he maintained a position of influence over both the cast and the audience, orchestrating the emotional arc of the scandal with precision. Behind the scenes, the emotional consequences were profound. Rashida leaned on her closest friends and confidants for support, navigating the dual pressures of public attention and personal betrayal. Late-night conversations often devolved into tears, whispered confessions, and discussions about strategy, as she attempted to manage both her emotions and the implications of the scandal. Friends offered guidance, cautioning her to balance her responses with strategic consideration, emphasizing the importance of controlling the narrative while protecting her own well-being. Kendra, meanwhile, experienced isolation and heightened defensiveness, struggling to navigate the mounting pressure from Jock, the cast, and the public. Despite her insistence on innocence, the accumulation of evidence and the relentless scrutiny created an environment in which every statement, gesture, and reaction was dissected for signs of guilt. Friends offered advice about optics and public perception, warning that appearances could be as consequential as the truth itself. Additional evidence continued to surface, including late-night recordings and undisclosed communications that suggested premeditation, complicating the narrative further and increasing the volatility of relationships. Fans meticulously analyzed every detail, from voice inflection to background sounds, seeking insight into the intentions and emotional states of the individuals involved. Each revelation intensified tensions, fueled arguments, and reshaped alliances, making the unfolding story increasingly complex and difficult to navigate. Within the cast's social and professional circles, the impact of the scandal was equally profound. Friends, family members, and colleagues were forced to navigate a delicate balance of loyalty, support, and self-preservation, with every choice carrying potential consequences. Trust, once compromised, proved difficult to restore, and the emotional ripple effects extended far beyond the immediate parties, affecting social dynamics, reputations, and ongoing relationships. The intensity of audience engagement further amplified the stakes. Fans were no longer passive observers. They actively contributed to the narrative through speculation, commentary, and real-time reactions, creating a participatory dynamic that both influenced and reflected the unfolding drama. Memes, reaction videos, and discussion threads proliferated, transforming the scandal into a cultural phenomenon that extended beyond the confines of the show itself. Production logistics added another layer of tension and complexity. Filming schedules, interviews, and public appearances had to be carefully managed to capture the most compelling moments while accounting for the emotional well-being of the cast. Producers balanced the pursuit of dramatic content with ethical considerations, ensuring that the narrative remained engaging without causing irreparable harm. The interplay between reality and perception, between private truth and public spectacle, created a multi-layered experience that captivated audiences and challenged the participants. The emotional volatility of the cast reached new heights as confrontations became more frequent, arguments more heated, and private moments increasingly fraught with tension. Rashida's measured approach contrasted with Kendra's defensiveness and Kirk's insecurity, creating a dynamic that was both unpredictable and compelling. Fans responded to these interactions with intense engagement, analyzing tone, body language, and context for insights into the unfolding narrative. Strategic information release continued to shape the story, with Mendeecees carefully calibrating each revelation to maintain suspense and maximize emotional impact. Every text, photo, and recording was timed to heighten tension, provoke reaction, and maintain audience investment. This orchestration of events created a feedback loop in which anticipation, speculation, and emotional intensity were continuously reinforced, driving both cast behavior and audience response. The scandal's impact extended beyond immediate interpersonal conflicts, influencing social networks, reputations, and public perception. Relationships were tested, trust eroded, and alliances shifted as the ramifications of the revelations became increasingly apparent. The interplay of personal vulnerability, strategic manipulation, and public engagement created a narrative that was immersive, emotionally charged, and highly dynamic. Audience participation amplified the stakes, with viewers actively shaping discourse, contributing to speculation, and influencing perception through social media commentary, reaction videos, and online discussions. The convergence of private experience and public interpretation created a complex environment in which personal actions had far-reaching consequences, and every emotional response carried both personal and performative significance. Production considerations further complicated the narrative landscape. The timing of shoots, editing choices, and the presentation of footage were all critical in maintaining engagement, sustaining suspense, and highlighting the emotional stakes. Producers balanced the need for compelling content with ethical considerations and the emotional capacity of the cast, creating a delicate equilibrium between storytelling and real-world consequences. At the core of the drama were themes of trust, betrayal, and perception. The unfolding events illuminated the fragility of relationships, the consequences of deception, and the power of narrative control in shaping understanding and influence. Rashida, Kendra, Hawk, and Kirk navigated an emotionally complex landscape, balancing personal integrity, emotional expression, and public scrutiny while attempting to manage the fallout of the scandal. The interactions between cast members revealed the intricate dynamics of human behavior under stress, highlighting the tension between intention, action, and interpretation in a high-stakes environment. The participatory nature of the audience experience further intensified the drama, creating a cycle of engagement, reaction, and reinforcement that sustained emotional intensity and prolonged suspense. Social media functioned as both amplifier and arbiter, influencing perception, guiding speculation, and magnifying the consequences of personal actions. Strategic revelation, emotional confrontation, and audience investment combined to produce a narrative that was immersive, compelling, and unprecedented in scope. The consequences of the scandal extended beyond the immediate relationships involved, reshaping social dynamics, reputational standing, and long-term interpersonal connections. Emotional responses were amplified, and audience engagement continued to escalate. Each revelation, interaction, and confrontation contributed to a continuous narrative arc that was both consuming and transformative, leaving an indelible mark on the franchise, the cast, and the audience. The sustained intensity of the scandal demonstrated the power of strategic narrative control, audience participation, and emotional volatility in shaping the trajectory of interpersonal and public dynamics. Through the interplay of private vulnerability, public scrutiny, and calculated revelation, the unfolding story created a layered high-stakes environment in which every action carried weight, every emotional expression was consequential, and every interaction had the potential to alter the course of the narrative. By maintaining control over the timing, content, and dissemination of evidence, Mendeecees ensured that suspense remained elevated, emotional intensity was maximized, and the audience remained fully invested in the ongoing drama. The scandal's intricate combination of betrayal, emotional confrontation, strategic orchestration, and participatory audience engagement created a phenomenon that was simultaneously personal. The narrative's complexity, emotional depth, and pervasive influence solidified its position as a defining moment in reality television, illustrating the profound impact of interpersonal dynamics, narrative control, and audience participation in shaping both perception and outcome. The interplay of these elements ensured that the story remained compelling, immersive, and unforgettable, leaving an enduring imprint on all involved and on the audience that had been captivated by the relentless high-stakes drama. Through meticulous orchestration, strategic revelation, and emotional resonance, the scandal not only captivated viewers but also transformed relationships, reputations, and social dynamics, underscoring the potent combination of personal vulnerability, public scrutiny, and narrative mastery in creating unforgettable reality television moments. The scandal ignited by Mendeecees' revelations had now evolved into a fully consuming spectacle, a whirlwind of emotions, speculation, and relentless public scrutiny that no one involved could escape. Kirk's once unshakable confidence had been replaced by a near-constant state of tension and second-guessing, as every glance, every comment, and every interaction with Rashida, Kendra, or Jock was analyzed for hidden meaning, interpreted as proof of guilt, or amplified as evidence of drama. The pressure was relentless. Private moments became public fodder, and the weight of both personal betrayal and fan scrutiny bore down on him in ways that were nearly impossible to navigate. In private, he questioned every decision, every casual remark, wondering how each could be perceived or misinterpreted, while Rashida, fueled by a mixture of hurt and determination, refused to let the betrayal define her. "I gave him my everything, and this is the result," she confided in a confessional, her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. "But I won't be silenced. I will tell my truth, and I will reclaim my narrative." Her words resonated deeply with fans, who flooded social media with messages of support, admiration, and solidarity, amplifying her voice and turning the public attention toward her perspective. The initial leak of texts between Kirk and Kendra had triggered the controversy, but the emergence of additional evidence, voicemails, audio recordings, and candid photos had intensified the drama, making it increasingly complex and volatile. Each new revelation offered fans and commentators fresh material to dissect, interpret, and debate. Every word, every pause, every nuance of tone was scrutinized for hidden meanings, while the consequences for the cast became more pronounced with each passing day. Jock and Kendra's relationship, already fragile under scrutiny, became a focal point for fans and media alike, as each interaction was magnified and analyzed for signs of trust, deception, or emotional turmoil. During a particularly intense confrontation, Jock's frustration boiled over, his voice sharp with hurt and disbelief. "How am I supposed to trust you when all of this exists?" Kendra, desperate to assert her innocence, responded with tearful conviction, "I have done nothing wrong. You have to believe me." The cameras captured the raw emotion in every word, every gesture, and every tremor of voice, while social media exploded with reactions, speculation, and commentary, ensuring that the scandal's reach extended far beyond the confines of the show. Mendeecees remained a calculated figure in the background, orchestrating each release of evidence to maximize drama and sustain suspense. Every cryptic message, every carefully timed post, every hint at undisclosed information kept fans on edge, fueling speculation and maintaining a heightened level of engagement. By controlling the timing and content of each revelation, he ensured that both cast and audience were perpetually invested in the narrative, creating a dynamic in which anticipation, tension, and emotional intensity were continually amplified. Behind the scenes, the emotional stakes were overwhelming. Rashida leaned on her closest confidants for support, navigating the dual pressures of public attention and personal betrayal. Late-night conversations often ended in tears, whispered confessions of disbelief, and discussions about how best to handle the ongoing storm. Friends emphasized the importance of balancing emotional authenticity with strategic presentation, offering guidance to help her maintain control over her narrative while protecting her well-being. Kendra, in contrast, faced the isolating pressure of defensive positioning, as the weight of scrutiny from Jock, the cast, and the public bore down relentlessly. Despite repeated assertions of innocence, the accumulation of evidence and the intensity of analysis created an environment in which every reaction, every statement, and every gesture was scrutinized and interpreted, often in ways that magnified suspicion rather than providing relief. The situation was further complicated by new leaks, including late-night audio recordings, undisclosed text threads, and behind-the-scenes footage, each of which added layers of intrigue, potential misinterpretation, and emotional volatility. Fans, bloggers, and commentators dissected every piece of content, parsing tone, inflection, and context to infer intent, assess guilt, and speculate about hidden dynamics. Each revelation served to heighten tensions, provoke new confrontations, and reshape interpersonal relationships, making the narrative increasingly difficult to navigate or predict. Within the social and professional circles of the cast, the impact of the scandal was equally profound. Friends, family members, and colleagues found themselves navigating delicate balances of loyalty, support, and personal risk, as every decision carried potential consequences. Trust, once compromised, was challenging to restore, and the emotional ripple effects extended far beyond the immediate scandal, affecting long-term relationships, reputations, and social dynamics. Audience engagement further intensified the stakes, transforming viewers from passive observers into active participants. Fans analyzed every nuance of behavior, contributed to speculative discussions, and amplified the drama through social media commentary, live reactions, and fan-driven content. This participatory dynamic created a feedback loop in which audience interpretation influenced cast behavior, which in turn shaped further audience perception, perpetuating a cycle of engagement and escalating emotional stakes. Production logistics added yet another layer of complexity. Filming schedules, content curation, and episode sequencing had to be carefully managed to balance the capture of compelling dramatic moments with the emotional capacity of the cast. Producers negotiated the fine line between ethical responsibility and narrative intensity, ensuring that the storyline remained engaging while minimizing potential harm. The interplay between private reality and public perception created a landscape in which personal actions carried amplified consequences, and every expression, gesture, and interaction held both private and performative significance. Emotional volatility within the cast remained high. Rashida's composure and strategic articulation contrasted sharply with Kendra's defensiveness and Kirk's insecurity, creating a dynamic that was both unpredictable and riveting. Fans responded with intense engagement, analyzing body language, tone, and context to derive meaning from every interaction. Mendeecees' continued strategic release of information ensured that suspense, intrigue, and emotional intensity remained elevated, shaping the narrative arc and maintaining audience investment. The scandal's ramifications extended well beyond immediate conflicts, reshaping social dynamics, influencing reputational standing, and affecting long-term interpersonal relationships. The interplay of personal vulnerability, strategic orchestration, and participatory audience engagement produced a narrative that was immersive, emotionally charged, and culturally resonant. Audience participation amplified the drama, transforming public speculation into an integral part of the unfolding story. Social media acted as both amplifier and arbiter, influencing perception, guiding speculation, and magnifying the consequences of personal actions. Through the deliberate calibration of information release, emotional confrontation, and audience engagement, the narrative achieved an unprecedented level of immersion, suspense, and impact, drawing viewers into a high-stakes environment. The personal, social, and performative dimensions of the scandal intersected to create a story that was emotionally compelling, highly engaging, and structurally complex. The consequences of betrayal, trust, and strategic revelation extended beyond the immediate interpersonal sphere, influencing wider social and cultural dynamics while reshaping the public image of the cast. Mendeecees' meticulous orchestration ensured that tension remained high. Emotional responses were heightened, and the audience remained fully invested. Each new revelation, confrontation, and interaction contributed to a continuously evolving narrative, sustaining suspense and engagement across multiple platforms. The scandal demonstrated the profound impact of strategic narrative control, audience participation, and emotional intensity on both interpersonal relationships and public perception. The cast navigated a landscape defined by uncertainty, vulnerability, and amplified consequences, balancing personal integrity with the pressures of public exposure. The interplay of betrayal, suspicion, and emotional confrontation created a high-stakes environment in which every action and reaction was consequential, shaping both immediate outcomes and longer-term narratives. By carefully managing the timing, content, and dissemination of information, Mendeecees ensured that suspense remained elevated, emotional intensity persisted, and audience engagement continued unabated. The scandal's intricate combination of personal betrayal, strategic manipulation, and immersive audience engagement produced a phenomenon that was simultaneously intimate, performative, and culturally resonant. The storyline's complexity, emotional depth, and pervasive influence solidified its status as a defining moment in reality television, illustrating the transformative power of personal vulnerability, narrative control, and audience investment. Through meticulous orchestration, strategic timing, and emotionally charged interactions, the scandal captivated viewers, reshaped relationships, and left a lasting imprint on the franchise and its audience. The convergence of private reality, public scrutiny, and strategic revelation created a multidimensional narrative that was as consuming as it was compelling, ensuring that every moment, every interaction, and every emotional expression carried weight, significance, and potential consequences. By integrating personal conflict, audience engagement, and narrative control, the scandal achieved a level of immersion and intensity that set a new standard for reality television drama, leaving an indelible mark on the cast, the franchise, and the viewers who remained riveted by every twist, revelation, and confrontation. The explosive aftermath of Mendeecees' revelations had reached a level of intensity that transformed every facet of life for the cast into a volatile, high-stakes spectacle, where private emotions collided with public scrutiny in a relentless storm. Kirk, once exuding confidence and control, now found himself in a constant state of defensive vigilance, meticulously considering every gesture, comment, and interaction with Rashida, Kendra, or Jock, as if any misstep could ignite yet another wave of controversy. The relentless pressure weighed heavily on him, leaving him tense, reactive, and uncertain of how to navigate the emotional and social labyrinth that had become his reality. In confessional moments, his vulnerability surfaced, revealing a man grappling with the consequences of actions now laid bare for millions to witness. Rashida, however, had converted her initial shock and heartbreak into a combination of resilience and strategic determination, refusing to let the betrayal define her identity or diminish her presence on the screen. "I gave everything I had. And yet this is the outcome," she admitted in one emotionally charged confessional, her voice steady yet saturated with pain. "I won't let deception silence me. I will reclaim my narrative, and I will show the world the truth from my perspective." Her candid strength resonated widely with fans, eliciting an outpouring of support across social media platforms, where messages of encouragement and solidarity surged, amplifying her voice against the cacophony of speculation and drama. The initial text leak between Kirk and Kendra acted as a catalyst, but the emergence of supplemental evidence including voicemails, unguarded audio recordings, and candid photographs layered additional complexity into the narrative, transforming what might have been a contained scandal into a sprawling saga of intrigue, distrust, and emotional turbulence. Each new piece of evidence was meticulously dissected by fans, commentators, and media outlets, who analyzed tone, timing, and context in search of hidden meaning or confirmation of their suspicions. The accumulation of content escalated tension, inflamed arguments, and reshaped alliances, ensuring that every interaction was both consequential and publicly scrutinized. Jock and Kendra's relationship, already under immense strain, became a focal point of the unfolding drama, with every word, glance, and gesture subjected to fan analysis and media speculation. During a particularly intense confrontation, Jock's frustration and hurt were palpable. "How am I supposed to trust you when there's so much evidence against you?" he demanded, his voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Kendra, tearful yet defiant, responded with equal intensity, "I have done nothing to betray you. You must trust me, or this will destroy us." The cameras captured the raw emotion of every syllable, and social media erupted in response, generating endless debate, discussion, and speculation about the true nature of their relationship and the legitimacy of their claims. Mendeecees, meanwhile, maintained a calculated and strategic role, orchestrating the release of information to sustain suspense, amplify emotional stakes, and keep both the cast and audience in a state of heightened anticipation. Each post, cryptic message, or hint of undisclosed evidence was strategically timed to maximize engagement, ensuring that viewers remained captivated and invested in the evolving storyline. The precision of his orchestration underscored his understanding of narrative control, revealing an acute awareness of how timing and content manipulation could intensify drama and influence perception. Behind the scenes, the personal ramifications were profound and emotionally taxing. Rashida leaned heavily on her inner circle for guidance and support, navigating the treacherous intersection of public exposure and private heartbreak. Late-night conversations often ended in tears, quiet confessions, and deliberations on strategy. As she sought to balance emotional authenticity with narrative control, friends cautioned her to protect herself while maintaining visibility and influence over her story, emphasizing the importance of measured responses in a climate saturated with scrutiny and speculation. Kendra, in contrast, faced isolation and the compounding stress of defensive positioning, navigating the intense gaze of Jock, fellow cast members, and an unrelenting public. Despite her protestations of innocence, the mounting evidence, leaks, and interpretations created an environment where every gesture, word, or statement risked misinterpretation or amplification, forcing her into a continuous cycle of explanation and justification. The emergence of additional evidence, including late-night recordings, previously undisclosed communications, and behind-the-scenes documentation, further complicated the landscape, adding layers of intrigue, ambiguity, and tension. Fans meticulously dissected every nuance of these materials, parsing tone, inflection, timing, and context to infer intention, gauge credibility, and speculate about hidden dynamics. Each revelation prompted new arguments, shifted alliances, and escalated emotional stakes, creating a perpetually volatile environment that was both unpredictable and compelling. Within social and professional circles, the ripple effects were equally significant. Friends, family, and colleagues navigated a delicate web of loyalty, support, and self-preservation, recognizing that alignment or perceived complicity could have far-reaching consequences. Trust, once fractured, was difficult to restore, and the emotional impact reverberated beyond the immediate parties, reshaping relationships, social networks, and long-term reputational standing. The audience's engagement acted as both amplifier and pressure valve, intensifying the stakes while providing a channel for collective participation. Fans were no longer passive observers. They actively analyzed behavior, generated speculation, and amplified drama through commentary, live reactions, and social media posts, creating a participatory ecosystem in which perception influenced reality and public interpretation fed back into the cast's responses. Production logistics added further complexity. Filming schedules, episode sequencing, and content curation were orchestrated to capture maximum dramatic effect while accounting for the emotional well-being of participants. Producers navigated the tension between storytelling, ethical responsibility, and emotional safety, maintaining a careful equilibrium that balanced spectacle with consideration for those involved. The boundaries between private reality and public performance became increasingly porous, as every expression, gesture, and interaction held heightened significance under the combined gaze of cameras, fans, and media scrutiny. Emotional volatility remained a defining characteristic of the unfolding narrative. Rashida's composure and strategic articulation contrasted with Kendra's defensiveness and Kirk's insecurity, creating a dynamic that was at once unpredictable, riveting, and emotionally charged. Fans dissected every micro-expression, pause, and inflection, seeking insight into intentions, sincerity, and evolving alliances. Mendeecees' careful orchestration of information releases ensured that suspense and engagement remained elevated, shaping both the cast's interactions and audience perception in a continuous cycle of anticipation and response. The broader consequences of the scandal extended well beyond immediate interpersonal conflicts, reshaping social dynamics, influencing reputational perception, and altering long-term relational trajectories. The interplay of vulnerability, strategic revelation, and participatory audience engagement created a narrative that was immersive, emotionally resonant, and culturally significant. Audience involvement amplified the stakes, transforming public commentary, speculation, and reaction into an integral component of the storyline. Social media functioned as both amplifier and interpretive lens, affecting perception, guiding analysis, and magnifying consequences. Through a combination of calculated revelation, heightened emotional engagement, and participatory investment, the unfolding scandal achieved a level of narrative complexity and intensity that was unparalleled, drawing viewers into a multi-layered high-stakes experience that was both intimate and performative. The intricate blend of personal betrayal, audience participation, and strategic narrative control produced a story that was emotionally compelling, culturally resonant, and structurally intricate. The ramifications of deception, trust, and revelation extended far beyond the immediate relationships involved, influencing social networks, reputational currency, and future interpersonal dynamics. Mendeecees' orchestration of information ensured sustained tension, amplified responses, and continued audience investment, with each new disclosure or confrontation contributing to the evolving arc. The scandal highlighted the power of narrative mastery, audience interactivity, and emotional intensity in shaping reality television storytelling, demonstrating how strategic timing and content dissemination can transform personal conflict into an immersive cultural phenomenon. The cast navigated a landscape defined by vulnerability, public exposure, and high-stakes consequences, balancing personal integrity with the pressures of perception and scrutiny. The interrelationship between betrayal, suspicion, and emotional expression created a rich and unpredictable environment in which each action, reaction, and interaction carried meaningful weight, shaping immediate events and longer-term outcomes. Through careful timing, meticulous revelation, and emotionally charged interactions, Mendeecees ensured that the drama remained gripping, suspenseful, and widely engaging. The scandal, in its intricate weave of private reality, public exposure, and strategic narrative orchestration, became a multi-dimensional phenomenon, drawing in viewers and participants alike, creating a story that was simultaneously intimate, performative, and culturally resonant. Its complexity, emotional depth, and pervasive impact solidified its position as a landmark moment in reality television, highlighting the interplay of trust, deception, narrative control, and audience engagement in crafting compelling, immersive drama. The sustained intensity and participatory nature of the audience experience reinforced the significance of every gesture, word, and decision, ensuring that the narrative remained continuously engaging, emotionally charged, and culturally relevant. The convergence of personal betrayal, public scrutiny, and narrative manipulation created a story that was unforgettable, immersive, and deeply consequential for all parties involved, leaving a lasting mark on the franchise, the cast, and the audience. The ongoing interplay of vulnerability, strategic revelation, and audience interactivity produced a phenomenon that exemplified the transformative potential of reality television storytelling, highlighting how perception, emotion, and control converge to create a deeply engaging, high-stakes narrative. The cast's navigation of these forces, coupled with the strategic orchestration of information and the participatory investment of viewers, created a multi-layered drama that was simultaneously personal, performative, and culturally resonant, ensuring that every revelation, confrontation, and emotional expression carried enduring significance. The aftermath of Mendeecees' bombshell revelations had now escalated into a full-blown maelstrom, where every facet of the cast's lives was scrutinized, analyzed, and debated across social media platforms, news outlets, and fan communities, leaving no room for privacy, complacency, or emotional respite. Kirk, once seemingly confident and unshakable, now found himself navigating a landscape of perpetual tension, second-guessing every glance, every casual remark, and every interaction with Rashida, Kendra, or Jock, as though any misstep could ignite yet another wave of controversy and speculation. The emotional weight was immense, pressing down on him in private moments when the cameras were off, forcing him to confront the ramifications of choices and actions that had now been magnified for public consumption. Confessional segments revealed a man wrestling with vulnerability, uncertainty, and the relentless pressures of perception, while Rashida, fueled by the pain of betrayal, channeled her heartbreak into measured resilience and strategic agency, determined to reclaim her narrative from the grip of scandal. "I gave everything I had," she stated in a confessional, her voice steady but laced with emotion, "and I was met with deception, but I refuse to be silenced. I will speak my truth, and I will not allow lies to define me." Her candidness struck a chord with fans, who rallied across social media, sharing messages of support, admiration, and solidarity, creating a groundswell of engagement that amplified her perspective amid the cacophony of rumors and conjecture. The initial leak of texts between Kirk and Kendra had been the spark, but the fire was fueled by subsequent disclosures: voicemails, clandestine audio recordings, and candid photographs that layered additional complexity and intrigue onto the unfolding drama. Each revelation was meticulously dissected by fans, commentators, and bloggers, who examined timing, tone, and contextual clues to interpret intent, assign blame, and speculate about hidden dynamics, creating an ever-evolving cycle of engagement, interpretation, and reaction. The accumulation of content heightened tension, intensified disputes, and reshaped interpersonal dynamics, ensuring that every interaction became consequential and every gesture potentially indicative of deeper truths or hidden betrayals. Jock and Kendra's relationship, already precarious, became a focal point of public fascination, with fans and media alike scrutinizing every word, glance, and behavioral cue. During a particularly intense confrontation, Jock's voice was taut with frustration and disbelief. "How am I supposed to trust you when all this evidence exists?" he demanded, his emotions raw and unfiltered. Kendra, tears streaming but voice firm, countered, "I have done nothing to betray you. You have to trust me, or we will lose everything." The cameras captured the intensity of each exchange, and social media erupted in response, generating a cascade of debate, speculation, and analysis, further amplifying the scandal and ensuring its perpetual presence in the public consciousness. Mendeecees maintained a strategic and deliberate role in orchestrating the narrative, releasing information in calculated increments designed to sustain suspense, provoke reaction, and maintain high levels of engagement. Each cryptic post, each timing of disclosure, each subtle hint of undisclosed evidence served to manipulate audience anticipation and emotional response, demonstrating a keen understanding of narrative control and the mechanics of public perception. Behind the scenes, the emotional toll was profound. Rashida relied heavily on her closest friends and confidants, navigating the dual pressures of personal betrayal and public scrutiny. Late-night discussions, whispered confessions, and shared emotional venting became essential for managing the overwhelming intensity of the scandal. As she sought both support and counsel for strategically addressing the unfolding drama, friends emphasized the importance of balancing authenticity with narrative control, offering guidance on how to present herself publicly while preserving emotional integrity and personal safety. Kendra faced an equally isolating and stressful environment, contending with constant scrutiny from Jock, other cast members, and an ever-watchful audience. Despite her insistence on innocence, the aggregation of leaks and interpretive commentary created a landscape in which every statement, gesture, or facial expression could be construed as evidence of deceit, placing her under relentless pressure to justify herself and defend her reputation. Further complications arose with the appearance of additional evidence, including late-night recordings, previously undisclosed communication threads, and behind-the-scenes documentation, each adding layers of ambiguity, intrigue, and emotional volatility to the scenario. Fans, bloggers, and commentators meticulously analyzed every nuance of these materials: tone, inflection, timing, and context to infer intent, gauge authenticity, and speculate about hidden motives, fueling an ongoing cycle of tension and speculation that intensified interpersonal conflict and heightened emotional stakes. Within social, professional, and familial networks, the impact of the scandal extended broadly. Friends, family members, and colleagues navigated a complex web of loyalty, support, and personal risk, aware that any alignment or perceived complicity could have far-reaching repercussions. Trust, once eroded, proved difficult to restore, and the emotional ramifications rippled outward, reshaping social dynamics, reputations, and long-term relationships. Audience engagement played a pivotal role in amplifying the stakes. Fans transitioned from passive observers to active participants, interpreting behavior, generating speculation, and amplifying drama through commentary, live reactions, and social media posts. This participatory dynamic created a feedback loop in which audience interpretation influenced cast behavior, which in turn shaped further audience perception, perpetuating an escalating cycle of suspense, emotion, and engagement. Production logistics added yet another layer of intricacy. Filming schedules, episode sequencing, and content curation were carefully managed to capture maximum dramatic impact while safeguarding the emotional well-being of the cast. Producers navigated the tension between storytelling, ethical responsibility, and emotional sustainability, maintaining a delicate equilibrium between spectacle and the humane treatment of participants. The boundaries between private reality and public performance became increasingly blurred, as every interaction, expression, and gesture assumed amplified significance under the combined scrutiny of cameras, media, and an engaged audience. Emotional volatility among cast members remained pronounced. Rashida's measured composure and articulate expression contrasted with Kendra's defensiveness and Kirk's insecurity, generating a dynamic that was both unpredictable and emotionally compelling. Fans dissected micro-expressions, tonal shifts, and pauses to interpret intentions, gauge sincerity, and predict evolving alliances, further immersing themselves in the unfolding drama. Mendeecees' strategic release of information ensured sustained suspense, heightened emotional responses, and continuous audience investment, orchestrating a narrative in which the participants' behavior and the public's perception were in constant dialogue. The broader consequences of the scandal extended beyond immediate personal conflicts, reshaping social networks, reputational perception, and relational trajectories. Vulnerability, strategic revelation, and participatory engagement combined to create a narrative that was immersive, emotionally resonant, and culturally significant. The audience's active involvement amplified the stakes, making their reactions an integral component of the narrative. Social media acted as both magnifying glass and interpretive lens, influencing perception, guiding speculation, and reinforcing the weight of every action and word. Through calculated timing, emotionally charged confrontation, and audience interaction, the unfolding story achieved unprecedented immersion and intensity, drawing viewers into a layered high-stakes environment that was both intimate and performative. The scandal's complexity, blending personal betrayal, audience participation, and strategic narrative control, produced a story that was emotionally compelling, culturally resonant, and structurally sophisticated. The consequences of deception, trust, and revelation extended beyond immediate relationships, influencing social dynamics, reputational currency, and long-term interpersonal consequences. Mendeecees' orchestration ensured sustained tension, amplified responses, and continued engagement, with each new revelation or confrontation contributing to the evolving arc. The situation demonstrated the profound influence of narrative mastery, audience interactivity, and emotional intensity in shaping both reality television storytelling and public perception. The cast navigated a landscape defined by vulnerability, exposure, and high-stakes consequences, balancing personal integrity with the pressures of scrutiny and expectation. The interplay of betrayal, suspicion, and emotional response created a rich, unpredictable environment in which each action and reaction bore significance, shaping immediate outcomes and future narratives. Through meticulous timing, controlled revelation, and emotionally charged interactions, Mendeecees ensured the drama remained gripping, suspenseful, and broadly engaging. The scandal, in its convergence of private reality, public exposure, and strategic orchestration, became a multidimensional phenomenon that drew in viewers and participants alike, creating a story that was simultaneously intimate, performative, and culturally impactful. Its emotional depth, complexity, and pervasive consequences cemented its status as a landmark moment in reality television, illustrating the power of trust, deception, narrative control, and audience engagement in crafting compelling, immersive drama. The intensity and participatory nature of the audience experience reinforced the significance of every gesture, word, and decision, ensuring the narrative remained continuously engaging, emotionally charged, and culturally resonant. The convergence of private betrayal, public scrutiny, and strategic narrative management produced a saga that was immersive, unforgettable, and profoundly consequential for all involved, leaving a lasting imprint on the franchise. The cast, and the viewers captivated by every twist, revelation, and emotional confrontation. The ongoing interplay of vulnerability, narrative control, and audience interactivity exemplified the transformative potential of reality television, highlighting how perception, emotion, and manipulation converge to create a compelling high-stakes narrative. The cast's navigation of these forces, coupled with the strategic orchestration of information and participatory audience engagement, produced a multi-layered drama that was simultaneously personal, performative, and culturally resonant, ensuring that every revelation, confrontation, and emotional expression carried lasting significance. The drama surrounding Mendeecees' explosive revelations had now evolved into a relentless, high-stakes maelstrom that engulfed every aspect of the cast's lives, blending private vulnerability with public spectacle in a way that left no space untouched, no emotion unexamined, and no action free from scrutiny. Kirk, once confident and composed, now operated in a constant state of heightened anxiety, meticulously monitoring every gesture, every phrase, and every exchange with Rashida, Kendra, and Jock, acutely aware that any misstep could trigger yet another wave of controversy, speculation, or fan outrage. The emotional burden pressed heavily upon him, particularly during moments when the cameras were off and the public could not witness his internal struggle, forcing him to confront the consequences of choices that had suddenly been amplified to a global audience. In private confessional interviews, his vulnerability became palpable, exposing a man wrestling with uncertainty, guilt, and the suffocating weight of public perception, while Rashida, responding to the pain of betrayal, channeled her heartbreak into a combination of resilience, strategic thinking, and determination to reclaim her narrative. "I gave everything I had," she revealed, her voice steady but thick with emotion, "and yet, deception met me in return. But I refuse to be silenced. I will tell my truth, and I will not allow lies to define me." Her words resonated deeply with fans, who mobilized across social media, flooding timelines with messages of support, admiration, and solidarity, amplifying her perspective amid the cacophony of rumors, speculation, and commentary. The initial leak of texts between Kirk and Kendra had acted as the spark, but subsequent revelations, including voicemails, private audio recordings, and candid behind-the-scenes photographs, fueled the fire, creating a labyrinthine narrative of betrayal, secrecy, and emotional turbulence. Each new piece of evidence was dissected with meticulous attention to detail by fans, bloggers, and commentators, who analyzed timing, tone, inflection, and context to infer intent, assign blame, and speculate about hidden dynamics, generating a continuous cycle of engagement, interpretation, and reaction. The accumulation of content heightened interpersonal tension, provoked arguments, and reshaped alliances, ensuring that every interaction carried weight and that every gesture was imbued with potential meaning. Jock and Kendra's already fragile relationship became a central focus for both fans and media, with each exchange scrutinized for indicators of trust, deception, or emotional imbalance. During a particularly charged confrontation, Jock's voice trembled with frustration and disbelief as he demanded, "How am I supposed to trust you when all of this exists?" Kendra, tearful but resolute, responded, "I have done nothing to betray you. You must believe me, or we will lose everything." The cameras captured every quiver of emotion, and social media erupted with debate, speculation, and analysis, ensuring that the scandal maintained its intensity and remained an omnipresent topic of discussion. Mendeecees, meanwhile, maintained a strategic, almost omnipotent presence behind the scenes, orchestrating the release of information to maximize suspense, engagement, and emotional stakes. Each cryptic post, timed disclosure, and subtle hint of additional evidence was designed to manipulate anticipation and amplify drama, showcasing a mastery of narrative control that kept both the cast and the audience in a perpetual state of tension and investment. The personal toll on the cast was immense. Rashida relied heavily on her inner circle for emotional support, navigating the dual pressures of public scrutiny and personal betrayal. Late-night discussions, whispered confessions, and strategic planning became essential tools for managing the intensity of the scandal. As she sought both emotional validation and guidance on maintaining narrative control, friends counseled her on the delicate balance between authenticity and strategic presentation, emphasizing the importance of protecting her well-being while asserting her perspective. Kendra, in contrast, faced a profound sense of isolation, continually defending herself against scrutiny from Jock, other cast members, and an ever-vigilant public. Despite her insistence on innocence, the accumulation of leaks, evidence, and public interpretation created a landscape in which every word, gesture, and expression was subject to analysis. leaving her in a near-constant state of explanation and justification. The emergence of additional evidence, including late-night recordings, undisclosed communication threads, and behind-the-scenes documentation, further complicated the scenario, introducing layers of ambiguity, intrigue, and emotional volatility. Fans meticulously dissected these materials, parsing tone, inflection, timing, and context to infer intention, assess credibility, and speculate about hidden motives, perpetuating a cycle of tension and uncertainty that amplified the stakes of each interaction. Social, professional, and familial networks were equally affected, as friends, relatives, and colleagues navigated complex webs of loyalty, support, and self-preservation, aware that any perceived alignment or endorsement could have lasting consequences. Trust, once compromised, proved difficult to rebuild, and the emotional ripple effects extended far beyond immediate interactions, reshaping relationships, reputations, and long-term social dynamics. Audience engagement played a pivotal role in the escalation of the drama. Fans transitioned from passive observers to active participants, interpreting behavior, generating speculation, and amplifying conflict through social media commentary, live reactions, and fan-driven content. This participatory engagement created a feedback loop, wherein public perception influenced cast behavior, which in turn shaped further audience interpretation, creating an escalating cycle of suspense, speculation, and emotional investment. Production logistics further added to the complexity. Filming schedules, episode sequencing, and content curation were strategically designed to capture maximum dramatic impact while accounting for the emotional welfare of the cast. Producers balanced storytelling imperatives with ethical responsibility, maintaining a delicate equilibrium between spectacle and humane treatment of participants. The boundaries between private reality and public performance became increasingly porous, as every gesture, facial expression, and interaction acquired amplified significance under the combined scrutiny of cameras, media, and an engaged audience. Emotional volatility among the cast remained pronounced, with Rashida's measured composure and articulate expression contrasting sharply with Kendra's defensiveness and Kirk's insecurity, generating a dynamic that was simultaneously unpredictable, riveting, and emotionally charged. Fans analyzed micro-expressions, tonal shifts, and pauses to infer intent, evaluate authenticity, and anticipate the evolution of alliances, further immersing themselves in the unfolding drama. Mendeecees' carefully calibrated information releases ensured sustained suspense, heightened emotional responses, and continuous audience investment, orchestrating a narrative in which participants' behavior and public perception interacted dynamically. The broader consequences of the scandal extended well beyond immediate interpersonal conflict, reshaping social networks, reputational perception, and relational trajectory. Vulnerability, strategic revelation, and audience engagement converged to create a narrative that was immersive, emotionally resonant, and culturally impactful. Fans' active participation amplified stakes, transforming public commentary and speculation into integral components of the evolving story. Social media functioned both as a magnifier and as an interpretive lens, shaping perception, guiding speculation, and intensifying the significance of every action and utterance. Through the careful timing of revelations, emotionally charged confrontations, and participatory engagement, the unfolding narrative achieved a level of immersion and intensity that drew viewers into a layered, high-stakes experience that was intimate, performative, and culturally resonant. The scandal's complexity combining personal betrayal, audience participation, and strategic narrative management produced a story that was emotionally compelling, culturally significant, and structurally sophisticated. The repercussions of deception, trust, and revelation extended beyond immediate relationships, influencing social dynamics, reputational currency, and long-term relational outcomes. Mendeecees' orchestration ensured sustained tension, amplified responses, and continued engagement, with each revelation and confrontation contributing to the evolving storyline. The scenario demonstrated the transformative power of narrative control, audience interactivity, and emotional intensity in shaping reality television storytelling and public perception. The cast navigated a landscape marked by vulnerability, exposure, and high-stakes consequences, balancing personal integrity with external pressures. The interplay of betrayal, suspicion, and emotional reaction created a rich, unpredictable environment in which each action and response bore significance, shaping both immediate events and long-term narratives. Through strategic timing, calculated revelation, and emotionally charged interaction. Mendeecees ensured that the drama remained compelling, suspenseful, and widely engaging. The scandal, in its integration of private reality, public scrutiny, and narrative orchestration, became a multi-dimensional phenomenon, drawing viewers and participants alike into a story that was intimate, performative, and culturally resonant. Its emotional depth, complexity, and far-reaching consequences established it as a landmark moment in reality television, illustrating how trust, deception, narrative control, and audience participation converge to craft compelling, immersive drama. The sustained intensity and participatory nature of the audience experience reinforced the significance of each gesture, word, and decision, ensuring continuous engagement, emotional investment, and cultural relevance. The convergence of private betrayal, public scrutiny, and strategic narrative management produced a saga that was immersive, unforgettable, and profoundly consequential, leaving a lasting impact on the franchise, the cast, and viewers captivated by every revelation, confrontation, and emotional display. The interplay of vulnerability, narrative control, and audience engagement exemplified the transformative potential of reality television, demonstrating how perception, emotion, and strategic orchestration converge to create a compelling, high-stakes narrative. The cast's navigation of these forces, combined with the strategic management of information and participatory audience investment, produced a layered multidimensional drama that was personal, performative, and culturally resonant, ensuring that every revelation, confrontation, and expression of emotion carried enduring significance, shaping both immediate and long-term narrative trajectories. And so, the storm of revelations, betrayals, and emotional upheaval reaches a moment where you, the viewer, become an essential part of this ongoing saga. Every twist, every secret uncovered, and every confrontation between Kirk, Kendra, Rasieta, Hawk, and Mendeecees has not only shaped the narrative on screen but has also created a conversation that extends beyond the cameras, into your feeds, your comments, and your perceptions. Now is the time to reflect on what you have witnessed and to engage with the story in a way that amplifies your voice. The drama is far from over, and your opinion, your theories, and your reactions become part of the collective experience. Will Kirk find a path to redemption in the eyes of the audience, or will the weight of exposure continue to unravel the trust within his relationships? Will Rashida's strategic resilience prevail, securing her narrative and reinforcing her public persona as a figure of strength and authenticity? Or will new revelations threaten to shift the balance once again? And Kendra, caught in the maelstrom of accusation, doubt, and fan scrutiny, faces questions that only time, context, and transparency can answer. Each of these narratives carries tension, uncertainty, and stakes that are amplified when viewed not in isolation, but as part of a larger, interconnected saga of personal and public consequences. Your engagement transforms mere observation into participation. Every like you press, every comment you post, and every theory you share becomes a thread in the larger tapestry of this unfolding drama, adding weight to public perception and intensity to the emotional resonance experienced by those involved. This is more than a story. It is an ecosystem of influence, emotion, and interaction. And your input helps shape the narrative, tipping the scales in subtle but significant ways. Think about the conversations you can spark, the debates you can engage in, and the perspectives you can challenge. Consider the friends, family, or followers with whom you can discuss what it means to navigate trust, betrayal, and loyalty under the public eye. Each share is not just amplification of content, but a reflection of collective curiosity, judgment, and emotional investment. Your voice matters because the drama does not exist solely on screen. It thrives and evolves through your participation. Reflect on the moral questions that have been raised. How do you define honesty and integrity when actions are mediated through public exposure? What does it mean to maintain relationships in a world where personal interactions are dissected and judged on a global stage? How do accountability, forgiveness, and resilience interact in a narrative where past actions are perpetually revisited and reinterpreted? As you ponder these questions, your engagement deepens the understanding of this complex emotional and social landscape, adding layers of interpretation that enrich the collective experience. The story is dynamic, alive, and responsive, and the next chapter will be influenced not only by the choices of the cast but by the reactions of viewers like you who are invested emotionally, intellectually, and socially. Every comment, every discussion, and every theory contributes to a living dialogue that propels the narrative forward, ensuring that the stakes remain high and the drama remains captivating. So, take a moment now to immerse yourself fully. Express your thoughts and reactions in the comments. Engage in discussions with other viewers, and allow your perspective to become part of the story itself. Will you defend Rashida's resilience, empathize with Kirk's struggle, challenge Kendra's narrative, or weigh in on Mendeecees' role as orchestrator? The canvas is yours to contribute to, and every interaction enriches the unfolding drama. Don't just watch, participate, theorize, and influence. Like the video to show your investment, share it to extend the conversation to your circle, and subscribe to ensure you remain part of every twist, every revelation, and every emotional confrontation. The family was divided, emotions ran high, and secrets were revealed, but the narrative is far from concluded. Your engagement ensures that the story continues to resonate, evolve, and captivate, making you an integral participant in a saga that is as emotionally intense as it is publicly compelling. Remember, each perspective, each analysis, and each interaction matters because the story exists not just in what you see but in how you respond. Fans are shocked, alliances shift, and new revelations are inevitable. But your commentary, your reactions, and your engagement give life to the unfolding drama. So, be part of it, share your insights, weigh in on the conflicts, and let your voice influence the trajectory of this ongoing saga. Ask questions, challenge interpretations, and discuss the emotional stakes with fellow viewers because your engagement transforms the viewing experience into a participatory event where reality, perception, and opinion intersect. By liking, commenting, and subscribing, you do more than consume content, you become part of a narrative ecosystem that is dynamic, evolving, and emotionally compelling. The unfolding drama between Kirk, Kendra, Rashida, Hawk, and Mendeecees is not merely entertainment. It is an immersive, high-stakes social experience that thrives on participation, discussion, and public discourse. Your interaction ensures that the story continues to captivate, surprise, and engage audiences worldwide. Every click, every comment, and every share contributes to the shaping of perception and the evolution of the saga. So, take your place in the conversation, add your voice to the dialogue, and help drive the next chapter of this unprecedented, emotionally charged, and sensationally engaging story. Stay attentive, stay vocal, and let your perspective shape the ongoing drama. Your engagement matters more than you know, and the narrative is richer for every contribution you make. Join the discussion, share your opinions, and immerse yourself fully. Because the saga is not just unfolding, it is evolving with you as an essential part of its heartbeat. Don't just be a viewer. Be a participant, a commentator, and an influencer in the story that continues to shock, captivate, and enthrall audiences worldwide. Your perspective, your voice, and your engagement are the lifeblood of this narrative, ensuring that every twist, every revelation, and every emotional turn resonates far beyond the screen. Fans are watching, conversations are buzzing, and the story is evolving in real time. Be part of it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts, theories, and reactions. Join the community of viewers shaping this drama with every interaction. The next chapter is waiting, and your voice is crucial in the conversation. This is your invitation to be fully engaged, to influence, to react, and to participate in a story that has captivated millions, provoked debates, and exposed the emotional undercurrents of trust, betrayal, and resilience in ways that few narratives ever have. The saga is alive, and you are an essential part of its pulse. Your contribution matters. Make your mark. Comment, share, like, and subscribe because the drama is not over, and your engagement ensures it remains thrilling, compelling, and unforgettable. Fans are shocked, emotions run high, and the family is divided. But your voice is the catalyst that keeps the story alive, relevant, and evolving.